Jason here, Call to the Lamb. I said earlier on my podcast that I would upload a new video if I could find some subject matter that would be acceptable by YouTube standards and still be controversial and interesting enough that people might actually want to just sit here and listen to me talk while I surf the internet. So I wanted to talk today about the old trope, witches flying on their broomsticks. We've all heard it. We've all grown up, hearing the legends of, witches using, brooms to, fly around like that. But where did that come from? Okay, like where does this originate from? So there, and I'm gonna tell you this, like it's listed on Wikipedia, but I'll tell you this right now. Wikipedia, it doesn't say the real story. It does say surprisingly more than I would expect something like Wikipedia to reveal. But so flying ointment, first and foremost, is what witches supposedly, it claims they smear it on their broomsticks to enable flight. That's not really true. They smear it on their bodies. I'm sure they eat it as well. And it's said here, according to Wikipedia, to be a hallucinogenic ointment used by witches. And it comes by a variety of names, which is flying ointment, green ointment, magic salve, lycanthropic ointment, since a lot of this stuff has to do with werewolves. That's what a lycanthrope is. A lot of these witches, warlocks, etc., are Canaanites. Okay, and they were founded by a werewolf. Like their lineage was founded by a werewolf and a vampire, from what my research indicates. As crazy as that sounds, some of my videos, if you check out my channel, like the Alexander the Great one, it talks about his adventures in Persia, where he encountered an army of quote-unquote dog-headed men. Saint Christopher is often depicted as a dog-headed man because Saint Christopher was more than likely a werewolf. And that isn't to say that, just because you're born, a werewolf or a vampire or whatever, one of these other fey creatures, Tuatha De Danann, Sheed, Devas, Devis. Gosh, there's so many names for them all around the world. But basically, the children of the fallen angels. I call them the fairy folk. That's the easiest way to describe them. The magical races that live amongst us. That 99.9% of people outside of their circles are completely oblivious to their existence. I just came to find out they exist about 4 years ago. And since that time, I've come to realize that the area in Pennsylvania I live in is literally full of them. The literal name Pennsylvania, Transylvania, the word Sylvan comes from the word sylph, which is another name for the fairy folk. So Pennsylvania, Transylvania, there's a reason why they both have the word Sylvan in them. And some of you that have kids, especially if you got money to burn, you may have heard of the Sylvan Learning Academy and thought about sending your kids there. They teach witchcraft there alongside their other subjects. I mean, if you're part of the real inner circle, you're sending your kids there to learn witchcraft, not study reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now back to the witch's ointment. So Francis Bacon, he was the head of security for the English during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, who was a profoundly evil woman, witch, practitioner of horrifying black magics and necromancy. Most of the royals, if not all of them, are practitioners of witchcraft, sorcery, etc. This is their hobby. Okay, well, people like us, we might play poker, or we might watch television or go see a movie or play video games. They're farming babies underground to use in flying ointment potions. So Francis Bacon, attributed as Lord Verulam. That's where the Harry Potter series gets the whole Lord Voldemort thing from. That book series is literally full of soft disclosures of witchcraft that are far, far less obvious than you would think. I mean, clearly the Harry Potter series is about witchcraft and sorcery, but some of the stuff they hide in that movie, like the polyjuice potion, if you actually knew what went in a polyjuice potion, the real one, it's even more disgusting than what I'm about to talk about. So the flying potion, it requires, these are the ingredients that Francis Bacon listed. The ointment includes the fat of children digged out of their graves or freshly sacrificed as well. Juices of smallage, wolfbane, and cinquefoil mingled with the meal of fine wheat. That's a pretty douchey sounding recipe right there. The main point I wanted to get at was the whole, fat of children thing. I don't know if any of you are about my age. There was a company in the 90s, early 2000s called Baby Fat, and I always thought to myself, because I all these hood rat chicks that I went to high school with, they used to love Baby Fat. They used to always wear Baby Fat, and it always had these stupid Baby Fat logo on their butts. So let me explain what the Baby Fat logo means. Okay, cat symbols, that's a symbol of vampirism. Baby Fat, it's because the people that owned this Baby Fat company are witches. They are child murdering witches that render the fat of babies in order to produce a potion that you aren't really going to believe what it does. A lot of people talk about seeing balls of light up in the sky. A lot of people talk about seeing UFOs. I saw a ball of light in the sky. A lot of people have heard of, the phenomenon known as ball lightning, and that's been documented. Scientists will say things like, but we're not really sure what it is. But they really know. Any scientist that's, decently educated is aware that alchemy is real and the occult is real. And they spend a lot more time than they should focusing on evil sorcery, evil sorcery than they should be focusing on scripture. So these balls of light, and I don't know why that just did that. These balls of light, here's a good one. This is pretty similar to what they actually look like. What this is when you use these flying potions, it enlightens you. Okay, this is what enlightenment means in the Babylonian sense. The 3D to 5D consciousness that these New Agers are pushing on people nowadays. This is what they're talking about, the false ascension techniques of Babylonian sorcerers, where by consuming certain potions, libations, rituals, etc., it actually allows them to unlock their quote-unquote soul from their body and fly around. This is the origin of the Pennsylvania Dutch, the Amish. There was a ship called the Flying Dutchman. That's what it's talking about. Is because the Dutch, the Amish, they're big occultists. They're a remnant of the Babylonians that came to America. They pretend to be Christian. Most of the Babylonians, they pretend to be really devout, religious types. Like Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists, Mormons. Just people that are excessively churchy and good, like they pray before every meal, and you would think that they're like complete squares. Like I went to high school with this family, and their mom and dad were like super Christian, and I remember going over to their house, and having to pray before I ate, and and stuff like that. And I always thought they were just like super super good, super super religious people. And as time went on, I'm about 18 at this point, and all of a sudden their mother, who is about twice my age, she's trying to have sex with me. She's I don't even think I was 18, honestly. I think I was like 16. She's trying to get me to have sex with her. And I was just like, whoa, that's not cool. And a few days later, her son was like, you should have sex with my mom. And I'm like, wait, what? And he was like literally trying to pimp his mom out to me, which is real creepy. Another thing, in regards to these balls of light thing, the disco ball, okay, the mirror ball. This actually is another reference to the fact that, the highest level of alchemists, the ones that have like really, really killed a lot of people. They've eaten a lot of brains and pineal glands and killed tons of babies and all that disgusting, horrible stuff that I really cannot even comprehend why anybody would do something that disgusting in the pursuit of immortality when it's as simple as just begging God for forgiveness. But the whole mirror ball, disco ball thing, that's because, the highest level occultists will appear as giant balls of liquid metal is what they look like. I've seen them. I've seen 7 of them in my lifetime. Which one was when I was a child, which was morphing into various shapes, like geometric patterns. I don't think that one was an evil one, though. I mean, they're fallen angels, is what they are. But I saw 6 about 2 years ago flying in formation in the sky. I mean, they appeared out of thin air. They literally just appear out of thin air, and they're floating in midair. And they're like, literally, they were like floating there until like they were certain that I was staring at them. And then they arranged themselves in this pattern. And as I'm staring at them, I turn to the person next to me. I'm like, yo, look at that. And as soon as they start to look, these things just shoot across the sky faster than any jet aircraft possibly could. And I was like, did you see those? And he's like, see what? I was like, you didn't see the giant metal balls in the sky. He's like, I saw something flash, but it was like, a split second. I didn't know what it was. I know this stuff is so hard to believe. Nobody buys into this stuff. But I've been a practitioner of certain occult sciences for 30 odd years. I know quite a bit that I don't really let on, and a lot of the stuff that I talk about on my channel, I have to kind of obfuscate the information. I don't want to give too much away because I don't want people trying this stuff, okay? What I'm about to talk about next, okay, if you're watching this video, if you start messing with this sort of stuff, you're probably going to go to hell. So that's just a disclaimer right there. Don't practice sorcery. Most people, 99.99999% of people, fallen angels, whatever you are on this planet, aliens or demons or whatever, giants or fairies, will-o'-the-wisp, whatever the fuck you are, you guys shouldn't be practicing a lot of the forbidden stuff. I mean, Toth said, Tahuti said, don't do this stuff. If you guys do this stuff, I'll be back someday and there'll be a reckoning. And you guys literally spit in the face of your frickin' teacher. How do you think he feels right now? Anyways, so there's this spell book called the Peakatrix, and it's got a flying ointment spell in it. It's also got the legit polymorph potion from Harry Potter in it, which I'm not going to get into the contents of this book, but it's basically a big book of satanic magic and rituals. It's a real grimoire. It's a real spell book. This stuff actually works if you know how to read it properly. Most people, they'll get a book like this, they'll try some of the stuff out, it won't work. It's because they don't know how to properly decode it. Every single alchemic text there is, every single real grimoire there is, there's a certain method to reading it. There's a certain method to making the spells work. I am never going to reveal those methods because the last thing I need is even more people getting into this stuff. But magic is real. It's been weaponized. The the Nazis, they weaponized the mysteries because they're real hell-bent on taking over the world and, freeing Satan from hell and, bringing about the whole Gehenna worldwide Atlantean vampire kingdom again and blah, blah, blah. And really all it's going to accomplish is just to bring about the apocalypse, and not the one they're looking for. I'm talking about, like, God Almighty returning and reminding everybody just who created who. And I don't want that to happen. I've been trying to restore balance for like 4 years, and no one listens to me. It's really frustrating. I think I know how Enoch felt before the flood when he was like trying to tell the giants and all the other fairy folk, like, yo, you guys should like dial it back a few notches because like God's gonna like flood the world because you guys are like farming babies and eating each other and eating kids and raping babies and having sex with children and doing literally every disgusting, most ratchet thing possible, which is just insanely self-disrespectful. I can't believe you guys, you're supposed to be elevated races, the elevated race, the divine race, but in reality, you guys are like a bunch of really disgusting dudes that I met in prison. Like when I was in prison for 3 years on a bullshit heroin case that a bunch of fraternal order members set me up on. A bunch of evil Satan worshipers set me up on. At the time, I had no idea this is what happened, but I get a call from the post office. They say, hey, you got a package from Pakistan. I go to pick it up, and it has 10 ounces of heroin in it. And I'm like, what the? And I didn't even, like, open it. I signed for it, and then immediately was arrested. I had a bunch of guys putting machine guns in my face. I spent 3 years in jail. They seized all my assets. I mean, they literally ruined me financially. I mean, I was very well-to-do at this point in time. This was about 14 years ago. I had a relatively successful internet marketing business. I was making about $3,000 to $5,000 a week. I mean, I was partying pretty hard, though. I mean, I was late 20s, in real good shape, good-looking guy with a bunch of money. I was spending it on women. That's what you do at that age. So I didn't have a whole lot of savings, but I had like $25,000 saved up. And anytime I needed to make more money, it wasn't that difficult for me to do. And then next thing you know, I'm getting charged under kingpin drug laws. Excuse me. And they take all my money. So I couldn't get a lawyer. So I have to use a public defender. And, this guy, the first thing I remember he told me was, I'm the best damn lawyer money can buy, and I'm working for free. And I'm like, that's cool, man. You're like Perry Mason. You're like Matlock. He's like winking at me and smiling and stuff. This dude was such a douchebag, I realize now. I mean, he just sat there and lied through his teeth to me. But he was like, listen, there's no way you're going to beat this case. If you take a plea, I can get you 6 months of boot camp. You'll go to boot camp for 6 months. You'll be out in 6 months. No harm done. I'm like, that sounds like a pretty good deal. So I signed the plea agreement. And when I go in front of sentencing, the judge says, boot camp denied, 3 to 6 years in a maximum security prison. And I look at the lawyer and I was like, dude, that's not what you said I was signing a plea to. And then, the bailiff guy drags me out of the courtroom, and I'm foaming at the mouth, screaming at this little pipsqueak pussy. And, I wrote a letter to him, and I was like, dude, what I signed, I did not get sentenced to. And he's like, you signed an open plea agreement, and the state has the right to renegotiate the terms of the contract without your knowledge or permission. I'm like, so basically you just tricked me into signing some bullshit plea because you just wanted to get me the fuck out of your docket. And now I got to spend 3 years in prison, and I lost everything I owned. And, I never got a reply back. So I'm in prison for 2 years at this point. I'm surprised I'm actually talking about this on the channel. This was a really shitty part of my life. I'm in there for like 2 years at this point, and like literally all I did, I just sat in the weight pit, lifting weights and eating oatmeal and peanut butter in my cell. Because in prison, I mean, I'm not a big dude. Like, I'm pretty strong. I'm like 5'5", but I'm 200 pounds, and I'm not fat. And, I can get real strong. And I was in there, I'm benching more weight than guys twice my size, you know. And the thing is like you have to be like that when you're in that situation, you know, because there's predators and there's sexual predators, and that was the point I was trying to make when I got off on this tangent there. That these beings that are supposedly divine and elevated races above and beyond anything we could strive to be, they literally act like the most grimy people that I met in that maximum security prison, like the pedophiles and the murderers and the rapists, like the most trash people you would ever meet. This is what the quote unquote elite are equivalent to. They're like literally, they act like the biggest pieces of shit on the planet because they're super rich and know black magic. They go unpunished, you know, and they just continue to do disgusting things, which I can't even understand why anybody would even want to do the sort of things that they do. I don't want to get into this stuff too deep. If you'd like to know the sort of things that the elite do in their little satanic rituals, get a copy of the Pikatrix. There's one on archive.org. It's not hard to find. Read some of the spells in there. I mean, it literally talks about torturing children, cutting their eyeballs off, cutting off their genitals, cutting off other people's genitals, like literally eating bags of dicks. You ever heard the term, go eat a bag of dicks? That comes from black magic, because black magic practitioners, they eat penises to gain power. Okay, all the weird occult crap that you think is fake is actually, a lot of it is actually real, and it's like one of the best kept secrets in the world. How many of you remember the old Calgon commercials from like the mid 80s? You know, the Calgon, ancient Chinese secret. And that's another one of their inside jokes. They're basically talking about black magic. That's an ancient Chinese secret, is the existence of black magic. And the stuff that I do is like, it's on the opposite end of the spectrum. I know a lot of the stuff they do, but I don't do that crap because I have self-respect and I want to go to heaven. But I do dabble with a few things here and there, even though, you know, God says not to mess with that stuff. The stuff I do, though, you know, it's similar to the sort of stuff like Moses would have done, or, you know, Enoch would have done. You know, the right-hand path is what they call it. The path of order and, you know, kindness, goodness, love, understanding, hope, you know, all the good stuff in life, you know, that is just disappearing because everybody apparently wants to be a complete piece of human trash now. Like, and it's so evident now. Like, I made this video earlier today about the occult symbolism, you know, in energy drinks, and these girls, there's literally hundreds of pictures of these girls, goth chicks, that are painting the Monster energy drink logo on their face or their bodies, and, you know, putting up videos like Hail Satan and stuff like that, you know, because it's cool to be evil now. It's cool to worship Satan now. And that was all like a calculated effort. That's what all this pop culture, trendy bullshit of the last 50 years has been all about. Since, you know, after World War II, the 1950s was the first decade where you know, trendy fashions were introduced, really, you know, to the mainstream. You know, you had the greasers in the 70s, the hippies in the 60s, you know, the discos people in the 70s, the punks in the 80s, the 90s. I don't know, the 90s were fucking weird. And then it just continued on where, you know, all these little cliques, and you know, they call it pop culture for a reason. Cult, pop cult, culture. That's where the word culture comes from. It has the same root in the word cult. In Spanish or Latin, octalos, which goes back to the Cretan sun deity Talos, who was worshipped by the Cretans, who is Cain. It's Cain. It literally all goes back to Cain. You want to see a picture of Cain? If you're still watching, he's probably going to be mad that I'm putting him on blast, but he knows I respect him. You know, I think he's cool. I wish he was nicer because he's really smart. But this is from the movie the Nosferatu, the silent film, German silent film, Nosferatu. That's supposedly an actor in makeup. It's not, though. That's the king of the world right there. That's the head vampire, the Nosferatu. That's the mark of the beast. That's what God did to him. And, you know, and I feel bad for him. He's had it rough. That guy's been around since his parents got kicked out of the garden. You know, he's been walking the earth this whole time, waging war on God. Him and his son waging war on God, because, you know, I don't know why. Because I imagine it's because they know God intends to damn them, you know, at some point, you know, at the end of all of it, because they won't ask for forgiveness. They will not bow to God, especially the fallen angels. They won't bow to God. They hate God because God asked them to bow to a man. God told his angels that I made this human, you know. I made this man. Stupid thing. Why is it doing that? I want to pull up the Adam, God, Sistine Chapel. Okay. Because God made Adam. Okay. It all goes back to this moment right here. When God imparted a portion of his divinity onto Adam and told the angels, this is my greatest creation and you will all bow before him. And 200 of them angels, technically 201, rebelled. And they got kicked out of heaven. And there was a war in heaven, you know, and they've been gang warring with God ever since. They think they won right now as it is, you know. I've had people inform me that they've used CERN to enter into what they believe is heaven, and that they've taken the abandoned throne of God. And I told the guy that told me this, he was a member of a fraternal organization, if you know what I mean. I told the guy, I go, well, if that throne was worth anything, it wouldn't have been abandoned in the first place. Okay, God's authority does not come from the throne in heaven. God created heaven. God created the earth, okay? God is the creator, you know, like God created everything. And they try to say that their God is even older than God, but that's not even true. They're just either they're lying to themselves, or they're being lied to. But they think that these primordial chaos entities are older, you know, than God, but they're not. If you look into scripture, it talks about God having created the chaos beings, the chaos gods, for the specific reason. God made them so insanely powerful that it looks like they are the most powerful beings to ever exist. They're beyond comprehension. Just beyond anything you could ever imagine. And in some apocryphal scripture that I've come across, it says that God created these chaos gods so that when God returns, people can see that to God, their gods are as if they were kittens. Literally, God describes these chaos demons, these chaos gods that these cultists worship, that they think are more powerful than the Creator. You know, it compares them to kittens. You know, that's how powerful God is. God is so far beyond our comprehension and understanding. God is the only uncreated, eternal being to ever exist. God does not have a creator. God is the creator. Okay? There's nothing in a finite universe that can defeat an infinite being. And for those of you shills watching this that are taking part in this idiotic stampede against the Creator, this war on God, stop. You guys have no idea what you're messing with. None of the angels have ever seen God, the true God in the heaven of heavens, what God truly is. And anyone that comes into contact with that being, it'll literally. You ever seen Indiana Jones when they get the Ark of the Covenant and they open it and everybody's skin melts off? It'd be like that, but with the universe. Like literally, if God showed up in God's true form, it would just destroy the universe. You know, it would just literally destroy the universe, it'd destroy everything, which is probably what God's going to do. It does talk about in the Book of Revelations, God peels back the heavens like the flap of a tent. I kind of have a feeling that God's going to do that so everyone can just see, you know, a little glimpse of the fact that, you know, God is bigger than everything. God is so freaking awesome. And anybody that would deny the Creator and go against the Creator's instructions on how to live is a fool. Anybody that's practicing black magic, witchcraft, killing children, practicing pedophilia, cannibalism, thinking that they're powerful, you are a fool. You are an absolute fool. It's getting close to the hour of the time, everybody. I suggest you repent.